Lord Lieutenant, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Eid Mubarak for Eid al-Adha, which commemorates Abraham's devotion to God, reflecting one of the themes that I'm going to cover today, which is selfless commitment. Before I start, I'm going to take my hat and gloves off because otherwise Colonel Mark has to wear his as he follows me on. It also means that the rest of you can, I hope, be a little more comfortable. So a very warm welcome, pun intended, to Carter Barracks, home of 4 Platoon B Company, 3 PWRR. A little bit of alphabet soup to, in fact I'm going to move this away. Right, a little bit of alphabet soup to get us started, for which I apologise. Perhaps better to call us the 3rd Battalion, the Princess of Wales's Royal Regiment. We're an Army Reserve regiment, an infantry regiment, one of 4 battalions of the Royal Regiment of the Princess of Wales's Royal Regiment. We have 2 regular battalions and 2 reserve battalions, and we traditionally recruit across the southeast of England, as far west as Hampshire, as far north as London and Kent in the east, and everywhere in between. 3 PWRR are part of 11 Infantry Brigade, and we're proudly paired with the Irish Guards. We have 4 company locations, and they're based in Kent and Sussex. East to west, that's a company at Manston, with a platoon outstation at Ashford, our battalion headquarters in Canterbury, with also a company there, a company at Rochester, and B Company in Brighton, and specifically in this location, here in Carter Barracks 4 Platoon. It seems rather fitting to celebrate the 10th anniversary of the Sussex and Kent and Medway NHS Armed Forces network here. Although much of what we are celebrating today is individual achievement, it sits very firmly in a team context. And the thread of teamwork and partnership runs very deep, and all the Armed Forces Network does in its very valuable and continued work building the bonds between the NHS and the Armed Forces and indeed others. So why is it specifically fitting to celebrate it here? Well, if we dig into the history of Carter Barracks, and here I must thank Gary Pullen, the PASO, and Tony Williams, our Civil Service storeman, for the comprehensive notes which they provided me on the subject. It shows how deep and long the roots of the Army Reserve go into our local communities, and by extension demonstrating teamwork and collaboration. And Carter Barracks is an example that is repeated across Great Britain by other reserve units across all 3 services. And it shows the link between 3 PWRR and the medical services through co-location and shared history. There's been a military presence on this site since the Napoleonic era, and later in the 1800s a fortress was built here, and the boundary stones can still be seen marking the site. Over its long history, the site has been home to the infantry, the artillery, the engineers, and post the Crimean War paid host to the military hospital, the beginnings of the medical and 3 PWRR link, and a couple of these buildings remain here today. In fact, they're sort of out there on the right hand side of the camp as you face this wall. During the Second World War, it was the site of a transit camp with soldiers deploying to the various theatres of operations, as well as hosting Army Medical Services and the Home Guard, yet another link to our local community in medicine. More recently, the Royal Signals occupied the site up until 2016 56 Squadron, who were sadly disbanded, and then 3 PWRR took over the site, and we've been here ever since. For those of you wondering why Carter Barracks, it's named after WO2 Nelson Carter of the Royal Sussex, who won the Victoria Cross and is an exemplar to his modern day successors of courage, selfless commitment, discipline and loyalty. Selfless commitment is a theme that I'll pick up on now as we look at what the battalion has been doing of late. So during 2020, April through July, we deployed 109 personnel to escort Operation Rescript, Defence's contribution to the COVID pandemic, where we were very much in support of the first-class efforts of our colleague in the National Health Service. The battalion deployed across the southeast of England, running mobile testing centres where our people had the satisfaction of supporting our local communities. We deployed again in December and January in support of Operation Rose, which was the response to the closure of the border with France, ensuring that testing could be put in place to restart the flow of vehicles to the continent and again as part of a wider team. We work with the Royal Welsh, the Royal Gurkha Rifles and the King's Royal Hussars. And it's been an excellent example of the volunteer ethos which underpins the reserve, with 28 soldiers deploying on Boxing Day and into the new year in Kent. Many of the soldiers deploying from Brighton and from Eastbourne. More latterly, we've mobilised soldiers to Cyprus on Operation Tosca, 24 soldiers over 2021. And this year we've got soldiers supporting the Falkland Islands Reinforcement Infantry Company, a nice snappy name, or FIRIC for short, and Exercise Rattlesnake in the United States with the Irish Guards. Soldiers are deploying to Kenya to support an exercise there as part of the United Kingdom's forward presence in the globe. Looking to the future, and much of this will be picked up by Tony Finch and Colonel Mark, the Integrated Review and Future Reserves 30 sees an increased role for reserves. A real opportunity for our soldiers to gain experience, to take their place in delivering defence outputs as part of global Britain, as well as crucially supporting civil society with an increased liability for resilience operations. And it's my assessment we'll need to be held at higher readiness for this. Much of this will be done under mobilisation with the attendant liability picked up by Defence, but equally some of our future activity will be done on what's called reserve service days, and that means that service people commit to those days, normally for a shorter period of time, but they're doing so voluntarily, and so therefore naturally the community which they come from plays a larger role in supporting the service person. Employers, families, CCGs are all critical component parts to enabling reservists to play their part on exercises or more protracted deployments in support of the defence outputs. But from my perspective, one of the frictions in ensuring that my team is as ready as it can be is the engagement of GP surgeries in helping to provide paperwork and information to the Army so that I can assure that my soldiers are medically fit and therefore deployable. Now, this friction is through no ill will or deliberate obstruction, and I understand that the NHS is extremely busy. Indeed, I've got a little bit of skin in the game because my brother's a doctor. But it's a two-way street, and what I need to do is I need to be able to talk to the CCGs in my area of operations and explain to them the crucial role that they play in helping me be ready. But if you could help me spread that knowledge, you'd be helping not only 3PWRR and the wider reserve, and I'd be really grateful for that. And this really returns us to where I started with the theme of teamwork. As reservists, we're very much part of a team supporting our local communities and defence, but we can only do that, of course, with support, advice and consent from our employers, our partners and our families. And I will not be alone in wanting to thank the NHS network, its members and indeed all those who've won awards today for their hard work and commitment to defence and beyond, working tirelessly to champion our causes. Thank you all very much, and I hope you have a really good day.
There we are.
Lord Lieutenant, ladies and gentlemen, sirs, good afternoon. As Kate said, my name's Major Tony Finch, and she's asked me to talk about the past, the present and the future of the network. The past and the present, not a problem. The future, I'm not sure what that's about, but I'll give it my best shot. I've only got 2 sheets of paper, but it is in font 4, so, and those of you that do know me, I've never said anything in 10 minutes, so if we're still here at 5 o'clock, please cut away and get to the curry. So I look at the past, and I look back with fond memory of actually my very first meeting, NHS meeting, which was in Brighton, just down the road from the railway station. And we sat in that meeting, and I have to say, a little bit apprehensive and nervous because I didn't know what to expect or what was going to come at me, being, I think at that time, Andy, were you there? I think Andy Lozelle was there, and not Stubbs, we come to you, yeah, was there. But the first thing that I was asked was, can you give us a glossary of all the abbreviations that the military use? And I sat there and thought, I can, but it depends on the context, whether you're REME, artillery, infantry, or whatever. So I said, well, yeah, I can most definitely look at that for you, not a problem. And the meeting proceeded, and after about 15 minutes, I had not understood one thing that was said. I got the its and ands and the haves and the nots and everything else. I didn't know what a PCT, an SHA, a CCG. So the conversations meant nothing to me. So I sort of politely put my hand up and asked, what are you guys talking about? Because I have no idea what you're talking about. And that was the first step that was taken. We all agreed that we would speak plain Queen's English so that we all understood what we were talking about. So that relieved me, because I didn't have to find then a glossary of all the military abbreviations to resolve the situation. But the next question was actually quite interesting, because I've been doing this for 10 years and 2 years sort of part-time before that, community engagement. But it was the first time ever I'd been asked, how can we find out more about the military community? So I had to think about that for a second, because I'd never been asked that question before. It was always, this is what we can do for you. This is what we can supply. This is what you need. But this was the first organisation that said, how can we find out more? So I thought fairly quickly, being a REMI body, you know, if it's broken, I can come up with a suggestion and run away very quickly. Have a look within your own organisation, which they did. And when they trawled around, and they found some really interesting people. And one of them's here today, Major Andy Stubbs, who has more than enough experience to help the network learn about particularly the mental health issues that go on within the military, him having served and still serving and been on ops. So that was really good. And if I remember rightly, Kate, there was also a Royal Naval Reserve Commander Surgeon who worked there as well. So they looked within their own organisation and absolutely had a wealth of knowledge at that time, because if you were in the medics in the Army Reserve and you had not been on ops, you'd been really, really lucky. So that was really good. So they did look within themselves and found that, and that was how it all started as we move forward. And the network has always continued to do that, to look at what are the needs. And I'll never forget this night. We were really fortunate as a network, and I do sort of count myself. I didn't, but I was firmly assured that I am part of that network, being there from day one. We were at an awards ceremony, which was an MOD and NHS combined award up in Lichfield, I believe it was. And we were all sat round the table, all the sort of forerunners, and the two Andys and Sandra from Royal British Legion. I have to keep confirming with Kate because my memory's getting a bit bad. And we were sat around the table, and it was a really, really good night. There was some, you know, it was a proper ceremony. They put up films like they do, you know, with the awards and showed what people had done. And we had a really high level, I think it was probably a 2-star RAF officer sat hosting us at the top of the table. And we were just enjoying the evening, because that's what the network is about. It's about coming together as a team. And we watched all these fantastic people that were up with the same award as we were, which was research, education and training. And there were some people that had done some really, really fantastic stuff, so we just carried on enjoying ourselves. And this mumbled, and that's pretty much what it sounded like to me anyway. And we carried on doing what we were doing, and then this RAF officer said, excuse me guys, isn't that you? Isn't that who, sir? Aren't you the Sussex Armed Forces Network? Yeah, we are, sir, yeah. He said, well, that's you, you've just won. So we went up, and when you look at the competition we were up against, I think that really, for me, was pivotal, because it reflected the network, which was, it wasn't about us, it was about everybody else. We were there, we were privileged just to be there, I think, weren't we, Kate? But to win against some of the competition was really impressive. So that's what started then, all that service champion, that course that people know, to find out more about the service community. But remember, the network, from my knowledge, has never looked for recognition. It has never been a network that has said, look at what we do, look at how we do it. But they've always been there to tell people and help people and show what they do. They have never been secretive about the practices and the exemplar and the best practices that they've developed. And I think that's what makes the success of this network. I have to say, because I'm from Kent, I do have a Sussex connection. My grandfather was Royal Sussex and fought in the First World War. And if you know Rye at all, if you go to the harbour there and go to the church, the cuttings at the Lifeboat Memorial are my grandmother's relatives. So I do have a very, very strong personal tie with Sussex, and also proud of being a man of Kent. and someone in the audience will know what that means, or some of you may do. So where are we now? The network continues to engage, it continues to communicate, it continues to search out within the military community, and I do mean the military community, from cradle to grave. Regulars, reservists, veterans, children, babies, the whole community, as we refer to it, cradle to grave. Because what they want to do, or what we want to do, is deliver what's needed, not what we think what's needed. And it's ever changing. It's changed in the last 14, 15, 16, 20 years, and that it's ever evolving. It continually updates the service training. I think I've done it at least 3 times, and I learn something new every single time. There's new organisations, there's new ways of doing stuff, there's new training being provided, and I think that's really important. It builds stronger and deeper networks, and that, I think, is what makes Sussex unique and an exemplar to other networks. They don't sit within themselves. The last Service Champions course I was on, there were some people from all over the country doing it virtually. So it's not secretive, it's about how we can share, growing those networks. The introduction of the SERVS course, the mental health and suicide prevention awareness course, grows and grows and grows. Innovative, produced by Sussex. I think Jane told me earlier, they're now delivering 1 course a week, which is absolutely fantastic and just shows how the network puts itself together. Myself, what have I got from the network? Absolutely so much. I wouldn't have time to tell you all, but more than happy to talk about it after a coffee later on, Lord Lieutenant, if you wish. But what I've learned, I've been able to put into practice. I've been able to help people. I've been able to support people. Just by linking them in, knowing what's available and what support is there for them, and helping them through. Troubled times, some of it's simple, some of it's more complicated. But what it has enabled me to do is to work on currently a fairly unique project in London. I'm actually working with a number of hospital trusts in London to help them introduce trauma risk management to their internal staff. That comes from my military knowledge from our trauma risk management, also working with the network of having some understanding of how the NHS works. If you think you do, you probably ought to have a word with yourself. As someone said to me, I said, the NHS is like an oil tanker. You need to stop it and turn it around. And someone said, no. The NHS is like a fleet of oil tankers. They all do the same job, they all just got different captains. So we need to stop them all and turn them around. So we need to communicate with each other. But that's what I've been doing, and I've worked with senior consultants, team leaders, about helping them. So that's the network, not only supporting the military community, it's the knowledge and experience from the network going back into its own organisation. And we'll see how that one develops. They've been adaptive through this last period of really unique in our lifetimes, of how they've delivered and managed to maintain that delivery and the quality of delivery. The SERVS course is a perfect example. The numbers of people that are clamouring to get on the Service Champions course to take that on board. Because let's not stray away from the fact that the more people that know what's available support-wise to the military community, the more people we can help. And that's where, and I'm not going to use the phrase yet because I'll use it at the end. So, I've been asked to talk about the future. What can I say about the future? I can only say what I think the future could look like. Continue to build from its beginnings and its foundations over the past 10 years, that sharing of best practice for the benefits of the service community, and that, remember that, the service community as a whole. Continue to engage with the service community to find out what the needs are, even more so at the highest level, so that the highest level within the service community understand what people are doing for our service community, because it affects recruitment, retention, the public's perception. Should we take away from the MOD's responsibility? Should the network? No, it shouldn't. It should help support and bolster and have that closer connection. So those higher level connections, so it knows what's being delivered at higher level or their expectations are, so we can support that as a network. Continue that cradle to grave support. Expanding the service champions and serves courses, training more instructors, developing that. So the more people that know that what's available, the more people we can support. That's got to be good. Also the development of assurance. When we deliver training in any field, there should be some assurance. Is what we started out with still the same, and does it still meet the requirements? So that element of assurance in the future. As people in green, blue, light blue, we're not all broken. Some of us need a little bit of help. Most of us are pretty okay, thank you very much. But now and again we just need that help and support. And that comes from the network. And that's what the network does. However large or small that task is, it has always delivered. It has never ever, whenever I've rung somebody up, let me down. Whether I've needed some help or whether I know someone who needed some help. What we've seen over the last year, I just think epitomises how working closer together is not only a benefit for the military, but the NHS as well. The NHS is going through, and I say going through because it still is, Operation COVID. It's their fight, it's their war. When we go on ops, we know how long it's going to last. 6 months, might be 12 months. They're not over yet, and when it's over for them, they'll start picking up the pieces and the clearing up from afterwards. So working together has got to be a positive for both our communities, and we need to continue that. That's where working together we do, and we can make a difference together, and we should continue that and take that message away. To finish, I would like to thank all the people that work in the network, not me. I talk to myself every day in the mirror. It's not pleasant sometimes. All those people that work in the network. I wish I could tell you how many thousands of people you've helped and supported. I can't, we don't know. But I know it's in the thousands. But I'd like to thank you for your time, your effort and your commitment, and your future commitment, which I'm sure will not wane as things move forward. So thank you very much. Kate, who was very pivotal at the beginning, Andy, George, Martin, Jane, Mandy, all those out there, and anyone else that works in the network, thank you very much for your help and support.
We have had to hold today outside because of COVID. One of the requirements under public health and the NHS local CCGs were for us to hold it out. So thank you very much for everyone for bearing with us with the heat. We'll try and manage it as quickly as we can. What we're going to do is we'll film everyone receiving their awards, but actually we'll do the photographs in turn in the inside, so that people can then get proper pictures and actually be out of the sun for that. So that's what we'll be doing today. So I'm going to start with the first citation. Would the Lord Lieutenant like to come up now? Thank you. And a team of us are going to do the citations because we've got a few awards today, I'm afraid, to get through. But I think it's a real show of all the work that everyone's doing, and it is about that whole network. It's not just about us as a team or us even in the NHS, it is about the whole system working together. And on that front, I am very pleased to announce the first award winner, which is for the Team Award, and that is the Princess of Wales Royal Regiment. So thank you very much. PWRR have been an integral part of the Armed Forces network from the very beginning. They input into the service champions training held regularly at their units across Sussex, Kent and Medway. And they've given our service champions valuable insight and continue to do so today. Even if that is on the online format, we still have members of the 3PWRR inputting into that training. And that insight and that military life and culture, which includes curries, lunches for us all very regularly, and today we had to have a curry even though it's a very hot day, so thank you. But with this enduring commitment, PWRR has undoubtedly helped to foster excellent relationships between the local military and civilian communities. They have hosted countless events and training for the network, and we would like to give very special thanks to those individuals who have embraced us with the aims and values of our networks over the years and have gone that extra mile to support us. A special mention in particular to Captain Angus Turnbull, Captain Clive Phillimore, Captain Gary Pullen, W01 Martin Lewis and Captain Andy Lazelle, retired MBE. I'd particularly really like to say thank you to all of those who over the years have put really good impact and support to the network. So thank you very much. So if people would like to come forward for that award.
Thank you.
Who knew these doubled up as sun hats, eh? Right, so the next award, the Community Engagement Award, goes to Tracy Evans of 11 Infantry Brigade South East Headquarters. Tracy's input into the network goes beyond her role as Community Engagement Lead. She's a consistent source of support and advice to the network, championing the work that we do whenever the opportunity arises. Tracy has helped us to build some invaluable local connections over the years, and she's always willing to help get new initiatives and projects off the ground, and has been a key player in our work with the local Gurkha and Nepalese community in Kent. We are forever grateful to the vital role Tracy plays in helping us achieve the awards. So thank you, Tracy. And on behalf of Tracy, Colonel Mark Seavenall is going to collect the award.
Well, it's my privilege, and really is a privilege, to announce the award for the Long Service Award Armed Forces Champion All-Rounder. And this award goes to Andy Biggerton, Station Manager, East Group, Kent Fire and Rescue Service. Andy has been nominated for several categories for the 2021 awards, which illustrates the sterling work and unstinting dedication he shows in support of the Armed Forces Network. He has embraced the role of Armed Forces Service Champion and combines elements of this into the many varied initiatives he supports. These include the Services LGBT+ network, where he is an active ally supporting Pride events and using his initiative to set up LGBT+ drop-in sessions at Canterbury Fire Station for students and local residents during the LGBT+ History Month. He is linked in with the global initiatives such as the Canadian Torch of Remembrance for Armistice Day, which saw an entry by the Kent Fire and Rescue Service, making it into the final memorial presentation. As a mental health first aider, Andy has mobilised these skills to support those in need. Even when off duty, he has examples of using his AFN Champion resource pack to support vulnerable veterans to find care that they need. He's a regular contributor to the network Service Champions training, where he brings to life the benefits of taking on the role. Thank you, Andy, for your dedication and unwavering support over the past few years.
Moving on to the next award is the Long Service Award for Mental Health. This is going to Major Andy Stubbs, 254 Medical Regiment and Sussex Partnership Foundation, NHS Trust. This citation has been put forward by a member of the team and also a network member in the past. Andy was my mentor as a student nurse when I first got involved with the SAFN 10 years ago. He has always been an inspiration, a professional individual who is still dedicated to the veterans' well-being on a daily basis. He is also a serving major with the 254 Medical Regiment and a senior MH nursing officer. He was seconded into the network as part of his development. The Armed Forces Network Service Chain was development, which was over the years adapted and now has been delivered to over 2,000 delegates across the whole country. So Andy, I'd like to say congratulations. You've always been a very, very valued member to the network, so thank you.
The next award is the Volunteer Award, and this goes to Bernard Stonestreet of the 99-100 Club at the East Sussex Veteran Hub, SAFA. Bernard has been involved with the Armed Forces Network from the early years. He's volunteered as a caseworker with SAFA and has led for each of their in-reach services or service to Lewes Prison. He's worked in support of the network, giving his time freely, whether delivering mental health first aid or supporting individual veterans. In 2016, he formed the 99-100 Club, and in 2019 he's established the weekly drop-in East Sussex Veteran Hub for the military community, which has charitable status and full membership of COBSIO. Bernard's volunteering has had a massive impact on the communities of East Sussex. He is well known and a highly respected figure locally. Many agencies work closely with this charity to enable support for their clients, for example, NHS Veterans Mental Health Services, Drugs and Alcohol Services, homeless charities, Sussex Police and Probation Services, and GP practices, to name but a few. Bernard has had a long history of successfully supporting veterans, their families and carers to achieve better quality life in challenging circumstances. He has dedicated at least 12 years of his retirement to helping disadvantaged and marginalised members of the veteran community. Bernard, thank you for all you've done and continue to do for our local armed forces community. Thank you very much.
I'm going to have the opportunity just to talk for about 10 minutes and then we'll move on to part 2 of the ceremony. I just would like to say thank you, and I am really proud of the network and where it has come from and where it's gone to and the spread of it. We've got a lot more work to do. It's only the start, and I'll share a few things where I think things have changed quite significantly. When we started, and particularly also the NHS, we really didn't know much about the military and what was going on. We didn't have that understanding, and Tony has given you a really good understanding of where our position was and where we've come, and I'll show you where we've come to on some of that. So with NHS England, they gradually have decided and have developed services, so we go from having no real military services in the general population into now having the TILS service and the CTS service and HIS. They're all abbreviations, but don't worry about them. They're all mental health service, and now, quite conveniently, they come under the name of Op Courage. And that's much easier for us all to remember, and don't worry about what the underlying service is. Some of the future will be that will go out for reprocurement, and we will need to work together as a system, both Sussex, Kent and Medway, to make sure that we do get the service we want for our veterans and their families in our local area, to make sure NHS does provide what we need them to provide through that service for our local population. So we will be working together as a system to make sure we deliver that over the next 6 months or so we are ready for when that procurement comes out from NHS England. NHS England didn't stop just at the mental health. They have got prosthetic services now where any veteran or person leaving, transitioning out, can get good prosthesis, and that's really important. And actually for me, I've got a really good example within the network that I like to share, because it's where 3PWRR has made a difference. One of their ex-service personnel who has had an injury, was wearing the prosthetics, and it was wearing out. And the local service at that point said, oh, we can't give you another one, you've already used that one up. He was a lorry driver and needed that prosthetics to actually do his job. So they contacted us in the network, and we then contacted that service, told them all about what the NHS could provide now, and they accessed that resources so that individual could then get a prosthetics. And that's where, for me, it just shows that partnership working, understanding of what is out there is so important. Leading on, they've now set up the trauma, veterans trauma networks. Most people think that is just about trauma. It isn't. It is really developing into anything to do with physical health as a route to go if you've had an injury due to service. That could be now something to do with respiratory, sight loss, as well as the usual things that people think about, of MSK, which is your back, your arms, and all of those sort of injuries, which are very common for those in the armed forces to receive. So those services are now available. That once again will be redesigned over most of the next year or two by NHS England, and we wonder what name they'll come up to. They will come up with a different one, but we're not sure what that will be. That will be put up to vote and discussion with the armed forces community to decide what the most appropriate one is. But for me, that is another source of support for individuals. Building on that, within Sussex, we're really fortunate to have in Brighton, which actually serves the whole of Sussex and Kent and Medway, for anyone, whether they are a reservist, regular, or veteran, and they doesn't have to be to injury due to service. They can go to the Shavasay Clinic, and that is a clinic run by Lieutenant Colonel Ben Caesar, who will see people within a month. So that's where it's really good that we've got local services being set up to help our local communities and wider communities, and that's very important to me. So building on that, we've also felt right from the very beginning, when we set up the network, we said actually we can't do mental health on its own. We have to have other services. So right from the beginning we had housing coming to the meetings, early on the police, and then fire and everyone else, which is why when you see who the award winners are today, you see a wide range of people involved with that, because you can't just solve one issue if they've got a wide issue. Because if they've got debt or something like that, that means that they maybe can't get their mental health sorted because they're so worried about their debt. So we need to work collaboratively together, and that is fundamental for what we're doing, and I think that's where we've got to now. So with all this work that we've been doing, and we've now got 15 fact sheets, so that's all the different topics we've researched and pulled together from all the information out there. We've got a couple more on their way. We will be working with Fighting with Pride, and we should have the LGBT plus information fact sheet coming out within the next month. So those will be coming forward. We've also done pathways, so we've now got a total of 99 pathways which we've done for all of those areas, so that includes the whole of London, Hampshire, Surrey, as well as Sussex and Kent and Medway. So those mean that people know where to access, and those now feed the Forces Connect app, which at the last count had 11,500 downloads for it, and is now spreading across the UK. So once again, it's something that's been taken and transferred widely. We've already mentioned a number of the trainings, but there has continuously been engagements. We were working out the other day, in 3 years, I think we've been engaging with about 7,000 people through the different communications. So imagine over 10 years how many that could be. So it is quite large numbers that we have been involved with, whether it's a professional trying to teach them about the armed forces, or whether it's someone from the armed forces, where we try and give them skills themselves, because we think it's really important that people from the armed forces do have the skills themselves to help each other. And that's where we've been doing a veterans, family and carers course, so that they can access those resources and have their skills, whether it's suicide prevention, debt management, or just asking questions and knowing where to access services. So we've got all of this in place, and I think we're in a really good position. But what is the future? I think there is more integration. Yes, we set the scene already, we've got quite a lot of integrated work going on, but I think further work needs to be done. We shouldn't have barriers between organisations. Automatically, yes, our service champions, we sometimes have 6 service champions involved with one case, and that's because of the complexity and the areas they cover and what they do. But we're at a really good point, I think, within Sussex, Kent and Medway, and I think that is we've got new legislation coming out which we will have to implement in the NHS by the 1st of April in 2022, and that means that we'll have to have due regard, and the due regard means that we will need to consider someone from the armed forces and everything. So whether that is our equalities impact assessments, our quality impact assessments, new services, everything we do, we will need to make sure that we are providing a care and support that we should be for this community. So that means change for everyone, and that means that all our providers, whether we've got BSUH here, who is actually exemplar with their gold, but everyone, all the trusts across that area will have to think about the armed forces community. And I encourage them all to get their Veterans Aware accreditation, get their employers recognition, because that's a way of helping them get some structure and a way forward for making sure that they are ready to help their own staff, because very much for me it's just about your own staff, and then also looking at further afield, whether it's your reservists or whether it's your veterans or whether it's your family members. Remembering when people are deployed, that may have an impact on the family member that may be still within your organisation, so we need to be caring and supporting them. At this opportune time as well, with us all changing in 2022, and it's going through all the Parliament at the moment, is the CCSGs will no longer exist. We'll become integrated care systems. So another acronym for you to all learn. And there'll be one in Sussex and one in Kent and Medway. But that also gives us our opportunity to make sure once again we're doing things across the whole patch, working together and in a way to go forward. And the NHS England has set us a number of recommendations they expect us to be delivering as integrated care systems for the armed forces community, which I think is brilliant. It reinforces the work actually we're doing already in this area, and what we're doing hopefully will carry on being shared, and we've been asked by Region to help them share some of the practice that we're already doing in our systems. So we will be doing that. In addition to that, they have done a families engagement programme, and once again from that they're wanting us to have single points of contact, a place where they can go so the family know where they can access that support when they want it. And they are recommending, and we'll see what it exactly looks like in the future, but they used the networks as an example of that practice that we could be using elsewhere, and having that within the ICS. The ICSs will be the ones that are held accountable and responsible for making sure we deliver all this work. So we've done a lot, as I've always said, there's always a lot more to do. We're always learning new things every day and coming across different things that we need to be dealing with. But I do think it's our real opportunity to go forward and make a change and make a system-wide. For me, it needs to become systematic, that actually anywhere that anyone comes into the system, they will get the support they want. Everyone asks that question, as I reiterate every time I do any training. Please do ask, have you or any of your immediate family ever served in the UK Armed Forces? Because unless you know that, you will not know whether you should be looking after or caring for someone, or offering them a different service or additional services as well, because they can access all of that support also from the charities that we work closely with, or whether it's the veterans clubs, the drop-ins, the breakfast clubs, who we all link in with and have very close relationships, and that is really important to all of us. I couldn't do this for all of you, so thank you very much.
So the next award is for collaborative support. Major Tony Finch, REME, SO2 Retention and Transition, Headquarters London District, and Major Jodie Kennedy Smith, SO2 Transition Life Skills, G1 Firm Base, Headquarters 11 Infantry Brigade and Headquarters South East. These two award winners really do embody the values and standards seen within Her Majesty's Armed Forces and serve as role models beyond the military community. Tony was present in the inaugural meeting of the network, where he showed his support for the concept of the network in its very delivery. He's a great ambassador for the Armed Forces, and at the time was working for 2 Brigade at their base in Kent. Ensured that we got the support we needed to make the network a partnership. He would regularly support events, training, and took any and all opportunities to raise the work that the network was doing. This support continues to date, even though he's now based in London. Though Tony's connections through Tony's connections, we've undertaken pathways for London, including the information on the Forces Connect app and providing service champion training. We're honoured today that he is able to receive this presentation. Jodie has been a great advocate of the Armed Forces Network, acting as a representative for 11 Brigade. The exchange of learning and experiences have aided her work within the military and enhanced ours to support the wider Armed Forces community. Jodie continues to support us at our events and training that is key to making us aware of the national programmes and ensuring that we know of any new developments and useful connections. Both Tony and Jodie continue to collaborate and take forward work programmes of support to enhance not only the resilience, health and well-being of serving personnel, but ensuring they have a successful transition to life on Civvy Street. Tony and Jodie.
Jodie unfortunately had to contact us today. She's been put into isolation because one of her children was in contact with someone with COVID. So real COVID, I will do. Thank you. So we've got another long service award for one of the service champions, and I'm very grateful for the work that she has been doing. That is Fiona Hamilton from the Department of Work and Pensions. Fiona trained as a service champion in 2018, but prior to this was already supporting veterans in her work for DWP. Fiona is a great ambassador for what a service champion can achieve. Within her area of work in the DWP, she ensures that the Armed Forces clients are identified, and she provides support and guidance and readily contacts the network to ensure her clients get the wider needs met, whether mental health, social or debt issues. She is a resource of advice to DWP and has facilitated training sessions for her colleagues and held information events where charities and statutory service that can help this community and provide information and advice for staff are invited to attend. Her newly appointed role as Armed Forces Champion Lead for the South East Group for the Department of Work and Pensions is testament to her dedication and hard work in championing the needs of our local Armed Forces community. So well done, congratulations.
Another long service award, and this award goes to Tom Beaumont for the Project Manager Mental Health Commissioning Team, NHS Kent and Medway Clinical Commissioning Group. Tom has worked for Medway CCG and now for Kent and Medway CCG. The support and care he showed in Medway is now translating into the wider system. He engages with all the He engages with all the meetings, events and training delivered by the network. He will support and encourage others to take the Armed Forces community into account when commissioning services, and he recently led ensuring all policies match across Kent and Medway so that the Silver Award could be continued and a repledge of the Covenant be undertaken today. He will always find time to support any initiative and provide advice within his organisation. Tom, thank you for your ongoing support to the network and the team.
Now to a Veteran Award. Martin Diver, Veteran and Sussex Partnership Foundation Trust. Following an 8-year career in the British Army with the Royal Anglian Regiment, Martin retrained as a mental health nurse and has worked for the NHS for the past 12 years. Martin works collaboratively with the network in his role as an Armed Forces champion and when leading on Armed Forces for the SPFT, which included supporting the Trust to gain the Veteran Award Aware status, the first mental health trust to do so. He has given invaluable sight to our Champions training course, contributing the lived experience of the challenges veterans might face upon transition out of the forces. As a nurse, he is passionate about facilitating best outcomes for veterans and for their families using mental health services. In 2018, he set up the Sussex Partnership Armed Forces Community, an informal network of veteran service users and family members, ensuring that they are linked in with a whole range of support alongside mental health specific support. Martin continues to be a strong advocate and role model for the Armed Forces community and is a much valued champion. Martin.
I don't know what I brought too.
To the final award, but no least important than any of the rest. But I really am pleased with this one. It's a charity award, and for me, it is about the joint working and support between the SAFA and the Royal British Legion. And for me, I have seen so many changes over the last 10 years from those two charities who now work really closely together and are a real asset to the charity organisations. So Zoe Kirby, Advice and Information Officer from Royal British Legion, and Alf Grossman, the Divisional Secretary of SAFA, Sussex SAFA, but Ted Williams will be picking it up on his behalf today. Since the start of the network, SAFA and Royal British Legion have supported the network. It's been good to see how the relationships have developed. They now work closely together and support each other in the community, and that means that they've got common systems and they will share advice and support each other and refer to each other when required. The two organisations, whether it is on case management, attending events with stands or helping us with our training, they have been really keen and engaged to go that extra step. They'll go that extra step to provide the support for veterans and all their families. And with that, they do that all locally and supportive. We would really like to say thank you to Zoe and Alf to accept this award for their organisations, as they currently are helping the network deliver service champions training on a monthly basis in their own time, which is greatly appreciated by all the trainees across the South East, and actually that is now nationally that your work is being shared. So thank you very much.
Thank you all again for taking time to join us here today, and to be able to commemorate this occasion face to face for me is a real pleasure. As you heard earlier from Colonel Tim and Major Tony, this has been an unprecedented time for the country, and it has been for our National Health Services and our armed forces. If I may, I would like to give you a quick reminder of the role that your regional brigade and has done, and some of the changes we will see in the future. As many of you know, the country is divided into regional points of contact for the Army, and in our region this falls to that of 11 Infantry Brigade and the headquarters South East. The brigade comprises 4 regular and 2 reserve battalions and has been engaged in operations all around the globe. Our reserve forces have also been challenged with providing considerable support throughout the pandemic, from the early days of distributing PPE, helping to build the Nightingale hospitals, testing, as well as those tasks required in support of the Brexit transformation. Support from our armed force network has never been more important, and how fitting it is that we should mark the 10th anniversary at this time. So what next? As you've heard, the integrated review for our armed forces published in March, and this has laid the direction of travel for a modernised force fit for the challenges of a future world. Our own 11 Infantry Brigade will change, will migrate to new roles, but the headquarters southeast will continue to be the main point of focus for our firm base. With the publishing of the RF30 paper, the role of the Army Reserve will be considerably enhanced, and this will include primary responsibility for the Army's response to resilience tasks, without losing the requirement to deploy overseas in support of our regular counterparts on operations. So as we embark on this period of great change for our Army, the support we get from our armed forces networks has never been more important or relevant, and we all look forward to the relationship continuing to thrive during the next chapter, the next 10 years. Now, if I may, sorry. There's just one more award, and it really falls on me the privilege of awarding a special award to the Lord Lieutenant of East Sussex. The Armed Forces Network as a whole, across both Sussex, Kent and Medway, would like to extend their thanks to Sir Peter Field, the Lord Lieutenant for East Sussex. Over the past 10 years, Sir Peter has been very supportive of the network and the Armed Forces community. Sir Peter has shown commitment to the whole Armed Forces community by connecting us together, whether it's local charities, with the networks, individuals needing help, or supporting the cadets and the reservists in our area. We would like to personally thank Sir Peter for presenting the Service Champions Awards over the years, and wish him all the very, very best in his retirement. Thank you, sir.
And we would like Lady Field to come forward. We've got a little bunch of flowers to you.
Stunning, thank you so much.
Okay, big table. Over to you, take those.
Thank you very much. Nice. CPO Logan is, thank you. Got my speech. Very kind of him. He's got all of it. Well, I'm absolutely overwhelmed. Hi Sheriff, Kate and team, distinguished guests. How lovely it is to be here this afternoon in this glorious sunshine. You wouldn't believe there was a COVID problem, would you, in this country under these conditions? But there is, and I'm only terribly sorry that we're not meeting in the numbers that we have been over the last 10 years. This has been an amazing organisation. It has grown so big, and you've added it to the network so well over that time. It's been amazing. And you've brought together the NHS, the military, statutory sector and the service charities and support. And that has just been so amazing, because when you link it back to the Armed Forces Champions and the way in which we have moved everything forward with the relationship between the Armed Forces and the community, this is just a very major plank within that group. And I have to take my hat off to you. There you are. 2 seconds. Every year you have given, when you've met together, I've been so impressed over the last 10 years. It's grown from something which was reasonably small and came together to something which fills the Amex community stadium. Well, it doesn't quite fill the stadium, but it certainly fills all the rooms, collective conference rooms behind. And we have hundreds of people coming to listen to lectures, to see the exhibition, and to enjoy everybody's company and actually celebrate what the Armed Forces and their support is all about. And so it's been quite amazing. And you've made life so easy for veterans in particular to integrate back into the community and actually come together. And so that's actually, I've been so impressed with what's gone on. I can't tell you. It's been a real highlight for me. Now, I'm going to, what I want to do first of all maybe is to congratulate all the winners today. You're incredibly worthy winners. Well done. You've been playing your part in actually bringing everything together. And without you, the AFN certainly couldn't exist. I'm rather interested actually, because it seems to me that when this all started, if your name was Andy or Tom, you actually could get involved with it quite well. But that's been reflected on today. So it's important to recognise achievement and the work that's being done, and that's been a real pleasure for me to come along every year. As you've rightly pointed out, Kate, I retire in about 2 or 3 weeks' time. I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and I know that the new Lord Lieutenant, Andrew Blackman, he's an absolutely amazing man, and he will be so supportive of the network and of our forces as life goes on. So I'm passing it over into very capable hands. So, ladies and gentlemen, there is just one last thing. You sprang a surprise on me, but we have a little surprise for you, Kate. And I'm going to read the citation because we're making a special award to you this afternoon. Kate Parkin. Kate joined the Sussex Armed Forces Network at the very beginning, following its creation as an extension of the South East Coast Armed Forces Forum back in 2011. Since that first meeting on the 28th of April 2011, Kate has been a driving force behind the network, raising the platform of the armed forces community locally with both statutory and third sector organisations. Whilst the network was set up originally to look at the mental health needs of the armed forces community, Kate was keen to ensure that this was done in a holistic way, looking at all aspects of need. Kate has been an advocate for the armed forces community, raising awareness of their needs and the benefits of this community can bring to the local population. Kate's belief in collaborative working has been key to the success of the network. Working with organisations outside of the NHS and in conjunction with the MOD, Kate has led the network to become award-winning both locally and nationally. Under Kate's direction, the network is now seen as an exemplar of best practice, with establishments of this work being rolled out nationally. Kate's innovative approach and ways of working have enabled members of the armed forces community, whether serving, ex-service or family members, to make contact and benefit from the established links within the network organisations, therefore receiving timely and appropriate support. Kate is an NHS lifer with over 30 years experience, and we consider ourselves lucky that Kate's passion and dedication has been and continues to be focused on the armed forces community. So this award to Kate Parkin is for outstanding commitment to the armed forces community. And I think we should have it somewhere.